How's it going, everybody? So in this video, I want to talk a little bit about my current elixir stack and how my ginseng experiment has been going. So as most of y'all know, I've been taking this Panax red ginseng and American ginseng in my stack for about 6 months straight now, actually. And obviously I've been really enjoying it because it's been a routine that I've been pretty consistently sticking with, and haven't really taken any breaks outside of maybe a week at first when I thought the ginseng was a little too powerful. So recently, the big thing I want to talk about here is about my experience adding in Nootropics Depot, their ginseng root extract. So it's pretty extraordinary how different the effects of different ginseng extracts actually can be. So, as I mentioned before, Panax Red Ginseng, the one that I've been taking, the powder from this Wisconsin LLC, it's the raw root powder. I mean, technically it's not raw because it's a red Panax ginseng, but it's unextracted, just straight root powder. I take about 2 teaspoons now, blended with 1 teaspoon of American ginseng, blended in some coffee, some hot coffee, really hot coffee, blended for about 2 minutes. I also take Hyperion Herbs cordyceps extract and a very low dose of rhodiola. I'm talking like 150 milligrams at the most, okay? I found that in the first couple months of taking rhodiola, really in the first couple weeks of taking rhodiola, a higher dose tends to be okay, about 500 milligrams. But over time, what I notice is, so some people wrongfully assume you build a tolerance to rhodiola, but the fact is it seems like it actually builds up in the system. And when you take too much rhodiola, or if it builds up to be too much over time, what can happen with too much rhodiola in your system is it has a calming and numbing effect, almost to the point of sedation or even depression. But what I found is, over time, when I lowered the dose down to about 100 milligrams, the energizing, motivating, kind of focus boosting, productivity boosting effects are the most pronounced at those lower doses. And I found this pretty consistently over the last, 8 years that I've kind of, on and off kind of taken rhodiola, is that lower doses tend to be best, especially over the long term. So got the 2 teaspoons of the whole root powder of Panax Red Ginseng, 1 teaspoon of American ginseng powder, and then about a teaspoon of Hyperion Herbs cordyceps extract, sometimes 2 teaspoons, and then a very low dose of rhodiola, about 100 milligrams. Rhodiola rosea, 3% rosavins, because there's actually different extracts now. So, recently added in Nootropics Depot, Panax Red Ginseng root extract, and it's a 7 to 10% ginsenosides extract. So what have I noticed from that? So pretty spectacular, right? So my basic kind of stack that I mentioned, that I just outlined, without the Nootropics Depot extract, gives me really good energy, focus, motivation, all that stuff, right? Gets me pretty hyped. Now, the Nootropics Depot root extract of Panax ginseng actually seems to cause me to go to sleep. Okay, so I'm going to talk about that here in a second. Probably the most powerful sleep boosting herb that I've taken. Now, I know this sounds weird, right? Because I've mentioned this about taking a high dose of a raw Shilajit powder, right? Not the tiny doses of this Prima V patented purified extract of Shilajit people always talk about, but taking like a half a teaspoon of just the raw powder of Shilajit, right? that has a relaxing effect, right? That has a grounding and sedating effect. Contrary to a lot of what people talk about with their Shilajit experiences, they talk about increased motivation and drive and aggression, all this stuff. I honestly wonder if what people talk about taking that Prima V or taking Shilajit at such tiny fucking doses, I really wonder if they're experiencing a placebo effect, because when you take enough Shilajit, especially the raw root powder, you feel it almost instantly, and it's an overwhelming feeling of groundedness and calmness. And in no way, shape, or form is it like motivating the way like ginseng would be, right? But I find this to be a similar thing with a lot of herbs that people try taking. They'll take a really low dose or like an impotent version of it, and then they talk about these crazy effects they might have, right? Like I've heard people talk about taking like a host defense reishi, which has actually been shown in some third-party tests to not contain any active ingredients whatsoever. And they talk about how it destroyed their testosterone profile and all this other crap. And it's just amazing when you see these things and you understand, and you're like me and you're in the know, and you realize that the product they're taking is garbage. So the fact that they talk about such profound negative effects of reishi, or these people that talk about such profound positive effects with the Prima V Shilajit extract at 250 milligrams a day, it's pretty amusing when you actually take a high enough dose and a good enough product and you feel what you're supposed to feel. It's pretty crazy. Anyway, point is, the effects you might think you would get from a high quality extract or something oftentimes isn't really the case. And another thing is, it's possible that lower amounts of Shilajit might actually be more motivating but take longer time to kind of kick in. That's possible. And everybody's different. You want to use that kind of cop out, that's fine. It's not wrong, but it's not entirely always the case either in regards to the effects you might get or the outcomes from different herbs and different people. But yeah, so kind of like a paradoxical effect from the Nootropics Depot Panax Ginseng Root Extract. So I was taking about 200 to 500 milligrams at first in the morning, and I had noticed feeling extremely calm, and actually after about the second or third day, profoundly sedated, to the point where I would take it before going to work, and after about 2 hours, I would just want to fall asleep. And I remember I'd be driving home, and I wouldn't even do my training or my workout because I was so tired. And on the drive home, I would feel so freaking I wanted to nap in the middle of driving, which is pretty bad. And so I've taken some sedating, obviously American ginseng has been a part of my stack for a while. And it's not really, American ginseng's not sedating, but it is grounding for sure. And I think if you take enough of it, if you take it the right dose by itself, it can definitely, it's definitely more on the calmer side than Panax Root Ginseng. But I have not ever felt such a powerfully sedating kind of effect from any other herb that I did from this Nootropics Depot Panax Root Ginseng extract. It's the root extract, supposedly a red Panax Ginseng. I don't know exactly what they do that makes it that much different from the other, Panax Root Ginseng extracts that I've taken. But the effects are like a night and day difference. It is it's like almost a completely different herb. Seriously. Because, I've taken the Solgar, Korean ginseng extract, which is highly regarded by a lot of people that I've seen as one of the most potent ones. And that one definitely increases my kind of like aggression and my drive to do things, right? And in no way, shape, or form is sedating, right? And in fact, might actually make sleep a lot harder to accomplish. But for some reason, this Nootropics Depot Panax Red Ginseng Root Extract literally puts me to sleep. And so it's interesting. I've made it a point to not take it at all in the morning. But when I'm done with work and I'm wanting to sleep a good 6 to 8 hours, I will take about like maybe anywhere like 750 to 1,000 milligrams of it, maybe a half a teaspoon of the Nootropics Depot Panax Red Ginseng Root Extract, and that shit puts me out like amazing freaking sleep. Like, and I'm talking also having great dreams, all sorts of stuff. It's crazy. So, yeah. And so just a little bit more on that. Remember, they got 3 different types of ginseng extract. So they have the Panax ginseng stem and leaf extract, which has 40% ginsenosides and is very stimulating. And also it seems to have a diuretic effect on me. It makes me pee like crazy. And they have the GS15 extract or whatever, and it's just a fermented ginseng root extract that's supposed to make the basically it's supposed to pre-digest the ginsenosides for you. Not a huge fan of that personally, although I haven't tried it, but I don't know, I'm kind of skeptical about that type of process, but maybe I should try it before I judge it, especially considering how crazy these effects are that I've had so far from these products. So yeah. Beyond that, I've my higher dose of the Panax Red Ginseng root in the morning. Just like the regular standard root powder, not an extract, whatever. 2 teaspoons. I mean, I feel great. I've been taking Mucuna Purins as well. I take about 1,200 milligrams of the Now Foods Mucuna Dopa extract. And it seems to be great and pretty profound for increasing mood, libido, motivation, all that stuff. Yeah, so that's my morning elixir. Now, the key here that I noticed with my stack that can make or break it is the dose of rhodiola. So if I take 100 milligrams, maybe 150, but if I just take a very tiny dose, like about 100 milligrams of the rhodiola, it balances out all the stimulating effects of the ginseng and everything else in my stack. But if I take 250 milligrams, I mean, it's still a pretty good kind of balancing effect to the stimulation of everything. But I do notice it kind of starts to turn down the dopaminergic effects a little bit. Now, if I take 500 milligrams of the rhodiola, it seems to just completely numb out the dopamine type effects, or what you would think of as dopamine effects, right? We don't really know a cause and effect relationship between the neurotransmitters these things work on and what effects they bring. But that would be how I would describe, these effects is, the mucuna, the ginseng, the cordyceps, these things kind of start to turn up the dial on things like dopamine as well as acetylcholine. Whereas the rhodiola seems to balance out those effects and start to turn the knob down. And I'm not saying counteracting the effects, right? It's not as simple as just taking less of the stimulating compounds. I believe that the rhodiola kind of takes the edge off while still allowing a good boost of stimulation from the dopaminergic properties of some of the stimulating herbs in my stack. But if I just take the rhodiola out completely, even with lower doses of some of these other herbs, it's really just not the same. Unless I just take the Panax ginseng out completely, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah. You know, all my normal kind of elixir along with Mucuna in the morning. Titrate the dose upward of cordyceps depending on the amount of training I'm going to do for the day. And then the freaking Nootropics Depot Panax ginseng extract, just freaking time that. I just time that around sleep, and that works wonders. Now, as far as Shilajit is concerned, I've kind of put that on the back burner, just because I started to notice some inconsistent effects from it, and also because I'm kind of adding other things and subtracting other things from my stack, and so didn't really want to deal with the interference that it might have on some of these things, so I kind of took it out for a while. But definitely seems to be pretty grounding, and, you know, like I've mentioned in my last video on it. So, with all that being said, let me know in the comments what y'all think, and what y'all's experiments have been like recently, and I will talk to y'all very soon.